J Bills for Media Spotlight UK and reunited once again with Amber O'Donnell in the building. I mean, take me through the weigh-in because it got a little bit crazy up there, right?
Yeah, I mean, anything with Brooklyn involved seems to be crazy at the minute. Yeah, she brought on stage like a dildo and some really shitty poster with like some random picture on it. But yeah, she's just always trying to avert all the attention onto her immediately. So yeah, it just got a bit heated.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like she didn't allow you to even get an edge away in terms of like getting your thoughts out on stage. Like, how do you see that when you look at her as far as like that sort of energy that's brought on stage? What's your thoughts there?
In all honesty, the only thing that Brooklyn showed me over the past 48 hours, we had a face-to-face interview yesterday.
Oh, I saw that. That was crazy.
Yeah, all I can see is fear. Like, she is so overly animated. She avoids eye contact at all cost. When we were meant to do the face-off, she stood like meters away from me and doesn't want to come any closer. She's just compensating for the fear that she's feeling with her mouth and just getting mouthy. And I don't really think it's boding in her favor, to be fair, because she's coming off a bit of a dick and losing herself the fans and supporters that I think she had. But hey, we all deal with stress differently, and that's clearly how she's dealing with hers.
It's interesting because your records and her records, obviously, she's come off a loss against Nikki Rue, and then you expressed to me like, you've had this is your third fight going in, with two losses, but hoping to avenge to get the win. With similar sort of like levels on that, like how do you feel in terms of, you know, getting yourself in the zone to say that I really need to make a statement now at this point? Is that something that crosses your mind knowing going into this fight with Brooklyn?
Yeah. I mean, I think beforehand, yes, I was very much like, I've had two losses now. I need to get a win, but that isn't really crossing my mind anymore. I've kind of like talked myself out of it. I fight because I like it and I enjoy it. And, the winning and losing is just part of the journey. Obviously, my two losses that I've had were at middleweight, and I'm not a middleweight by any means necessary. So, yeah, now I'm actually fighting at, I think it's bantamweight. So this is where I'm comfortable, where I should have been to start with, and yeah, I'm ready to make a statement. I've been in two fights at middleweight. I've handled these middleweight girls. I've eaten their punches, and I've not been knocked down, knocked out. Come close on points. So yeah, I just know when I get into this lightweight division, bantamweight division, I'm gonna wipe the floor with everybody.
Because a lot of the training that you said to me when we had our last interview, obviously working with Rico, Franco's gym, I guess you've had like a variation of different spars with different like, levels of opponents and stuff. Having been away for a year and having trained for so long, like, I guess building the confidence even further to get to this point. Like, what's it like in terms of like sparring different types of people, getting that experience, allowing yourself enough time to get ready for this?
Yeah, obviously my first fight, I only had like 6 weeks to go from nothing to getting in the ring. My second fight was pretty similar, like 6 weeks or something to the next one. My coach, honestly, didn't do me many favors. I didn't have any sparring at all for either of my first two fights. So my time in the ring with those girls was like my first time in the ring the whole camp. Like, I'd not sparred or nothing. This time round, we have sparring classes every week that I attend. Rico gets me sparring with loads of different girls. Yeah, I've really leveled it up now, and that's what makes me feel so confident, is that I've had two fights now with little to no camp, and now I've had basically a year of training and good training as well. So yeah, it's definitely set me up, and that's why I'm so confident.
So at this point now, last week when we spoke, like obviously we're drawing closer to a fight with Brooklyn. Like, you know, seeing her on stage at the weigh-in, and obviously tomorrow's your fight, like how more confident are you feeling as time is going on? Like, because I know obviously your last 2 fights, you're new into this. Now I feel like you're just settled, like you're just like ready to go. So how more confident do you feel now in general, as far as like, yeah, just bring it on?
Yeah, well, every time I have interaction with her, whether it be, you know, the face-to-face, the weigh-in, I get more and more confident because, as I said previously, I can just see the fear that she has. She won't look me in the eyes. She doesn't want to be near me. She's, you know, saying loads of shit on Twitter, as she always does. Then she'll go and get in the lift with me and be deadly silent. So she's just, it's just all a persona that she puts on. But deep down, I can tell she's terrified, and I just get more and more confident every time I see her.
And we saw Elle Brooke pass by earlier. You know, someone from history, where, you know, when I done my first interview with you, you know, Elle Brooke was one of your first ever spars. You know, to see where Elle has gone, like obviously we spoke about in depth earlier, but to see her here today, and obviously she's supporting you for this fight. How does it feel to have someone that you've had a history with in terms of like a first ever spar, to now being, you know, one of the top stars in Misfits, and you know, coming down to support you guys?
Yeah, I love Elle to bits, and I really appreciate all of her support. I think I wouldn't box if it wasn't for Elle. Elle was the one that got me the Kingpin gig, and then obviously from that, this has happened. So that spar that we had, that all those years ago, really, she put me forward for all these opportunities. So I do kind of owe everything to Elle for even being in the space in the first place. But yeah, having such a great person and such a well-respected person in the scene coming to support me does mean a lot. Yeah, and it's always nice to see her. She's always bubbly and friendly, and, you know, gets you going, and yeah, it's nice to see her every time I do.
Has she given you any like advice like along the journey? Because I mean, obviously she brought you into Kingpin, as you just explained. So you know, being around these powerful women in the scene, like, has she given you any sort of like words of wisdom, like for going in your career?
Well, I was actually like on the fence of taking the Kingpin offer, and I actually remember it was her and her team that were kind of saying like, you need to just take the plunge and take the opportunity. Like, yes, it's terrifying, yes, it's scary, but once you do it, you'll love it. And she was right. So like I say, I wouldn't be here without her, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her team having this conversation with me. So yeah, I love Elle to bits.
And just a couple of things from me. You know, we talked about Auntie Taylor training you recently, but now we see that KSI is going to be facing Slim and Auntie Taylor in a 2v1 in Dublin in August. So when you first heard the news, like, what was going through your mind? Because I know that you got, you know, good sort of working relationship with Auntie Taylor.
Yeah, I actually didn't know what it was to start with. I didn't know whether KSI was fighting twice in the night, but it's like a tag team, isn't it? But just KSI on his own. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a handicap match, so basically it's 1 versus 2 people. Yeah. So it looks like it. So I mean, so the dynamics of what I can understand is that they will tag themselves in. KSI's on his own. But there's already, like, you know, there's already talks from Slim that he doesn't want to tag Anthony Taylor in, and it just wants, you know. But the whole vibe of that fight in general, like, when you've heard about it, like, how do you think that will go? Especially, like, for both men, they've been trying to get a fight with KSI for so long.
I don't know. That sounds like a really hard matchup. Like, both Slim and Anthony Taylor are like strong opponents, and obviously when you're being tagged out, you're getting a break, and then so when you come back in, you're not as fatigued and you still have a lot of energy, whereas KSI isn't going to have that same luxury. So credit to KSI for taking that, because I think that's going to be really tough, you know, for KSI.
A lot of people that I've been speaking with, and in general, a lot of people have been saying like this is like a hard challenge for KSI, but it's something, you know, credit to KSI for taking somewhat of a challenge, because I initially thought it was like the 2 fights in one night, but then obviously 2 versus 1, it's like he's willing to go all the way. So I mean, it's crazy to see that this has all been set up now.
Yeah, crazy, definitely. But I definitely think that's going to be a very tough night for KSI, because you're basically like fighting a really tough opponent that in a sense doesn't get tired because they're tagging a different hard person in. So yeah, Tough one. I don't want to do it.
Well, I mean, 2 versus 1. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't even want to be in that sort of situation. So, I mean, finally then, obviously for you, like, your focus is on Brooklyn. You know, what can fans expect tomorrow night? Obviously now we're drawing close. You've seen how the build-up has been. You know, the face-off, the weigh-in. You know, what's the sort of final thoughts going into tomorrow?
I hope people are still watching me as a boxer and not giving up supporting me, because I've come a very long way in the past year, and I'm really excited to put everything that I've learned into my fight and prove that I deserve to be in this scene and I deserve these fights. I deserve to be like on these big shows, because I know sometimes when you're 0-2, people tend to just, you know, forget about it. But I deserve to be here now. I didn't to start with, but I've really made moves, and I'm excited to see how I put it into the ring.
Well, like I said, I'm looking forward to a fight. You know, it's been way too long since we've seen you in the ring. Is there any final message you want to send to your fans out there, like, you know, for, you know, what to expect for fight night, and then just to continue on the journey with you?
Yeah, definitely. Just definitely tune in tomorrow night. It's going to be a banger, and you don't want to miss it. There's going to be fireworks, as always. So, yeah, make sure you tune in.
Well, you heard it from the woman herself, making a boxing return after a year. Amber, it's always a pleasure every time. I just got to say, like, you know, before we got on camera, like, you gassed me up in, you know, the fact that obviously, you know, our first interview when, you know, you entered the Kingpin tournament, and the fact that you thought you knew that I knew about some of your, you know, background before going into boxing.
Some digging. You did some digging on me before you asked me questions. So when you asked me stuff, I was like, oh, okay, so you actually know who I am, because I was literally a nobody when I first started Kingpin. I had like 10,000 followers. I didn't think anyone even knew who I was. And then you were there and you were like, so I've seen on your TikTok and I've seen you in the news. And I was like, this guy who doesn't even research.
Yeah, I just said to Amber, don't gas me up, please. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be humble here in terms of that respect. I'm just doing what I need to do. So, you know, just going from the early beginnings, and then obviously you're here now, and, you know, obviously after your fight with Brooklyn, like, are you going to continue on the journey of boxing further as like a long-term sort of thing? Like, now you're just settled.
For sure, I really hope so. I enjoy the sport, I enjoy training, I enjoy being here fight week. So yeah, there's no reason for me to not carry on.
Well, watch her fight against Brooklyn Barwick tomorrow on CFN. It's taking place in the Indigo O2. If you're already there, make sure you're there. And if you're not, please watch, because this is going to be a banger of a fight, and I'm looking forward to it. Amber, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Always, always.